Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about the Tripowin Piccolo, and this is one that really flew under the radar. And if you're like me, you probably just assumed when you saw the price, which is about $35, 10 millimeter dynamic driver LCP, you're like, this is probably just Tripowin's version of their Harman tune set that's going to go compete with the Harman pack from last year. That's what I thought. It's actually not actually what it is, and this is yet another one that I think the build quality is slightly a hair more than what I was expecting. It's actually a super nice, weighty metal, super polished shell, brass nozzle. It's got this feature over here, which is probably the back vent. I'm not sure that's functional or not, but yeah, I think it's actually a pretty crazy build for $35. And if you look at the cable, it's sort of similar to other Tripowin cables. It's got this 4-core twisted version, which is something that you've seen before from Tripowin. But if you actually look closely, it's actually copper with a blue or black stripe, and that was pretty cool. You don't see that too often, so good job for those guys. They do cables, so it's pretty cool to see them pull out something new and unique for a set that's about $35, like I said. So like I said, what I thought Piccolo was going to be was very much what Cadenza is. And if we look at the graph, and we're going to walk through this one mainly with graphs just because do something new. This is kind of fun, a more fun set, and I think it's just quicker and easier to do it with the graphs and show you what it isn't and what it is, and we can do that here. So Cadenza in the blue, Piccolo in the red. So you can kind of start here and just say, well, yeah, the sub bass is rolled off a little bit more than Cadenza. It doesn't really have the depth that Cadenza has there, and that's all fine. Mids are kind of similar-ish. And where it really starts to depart and what really sets Piccolo apart from the other Harman sets is its lowered Harman, lowered treble, offset treble, however you want to describe that. They basically took, the Cadenza, lots of sets follow the same Harman level over here, and Piccolo actually drops it down. So kind of unique. You don't see that all that often, and it literally sounds just like that. You get, they lowered the sub bass here because they didn't need it to balance out over here because this is all a little bit lower, and all that makes sense. But if you're not used to hearing what a lowered treble level sounds like, it's kind of, it's a bit strange. But for those of you who are treble sensitive, this one is right on. No fatigue, no sibilance. They basically took a lot of the sharp bits, lowered them, and you have to remember that this is still treble presence. You can still hear it. There's nothing super rolled off. Like they didn't take 5 or 6K and drop it straight down. You still have the extension. It's still there. It's just at a reduced level. So if you're used to hearing energetic guitars or other instruments at 4 to 5K, those are very much reduced and very much relaxed. So to add, what else does that kind of sound like other than lower treble? Instruments that are right here tend to sound a little bit different, and no doubt that someone will review this set and said, my piccolo sounds a bit off, my flute sounds off, my harpsichord sounds off. There's always going to be some instrument's timbre that sounds a little off when you dip down like that, and that's exactly kind of what happens here. And what I will say is, same thing over here. So if you're used to Harman style female vocals that are super energetic and have a lot of energy there, we're going to rise a little bit early, a little bit more relaxed, and then kind of cut over. And that's not a super energetic female. And this very much favors the low pinna army, the high volume guys. That is exactly what this sound was kind of built for. And you guys are going to seek out sets like this because you could really turn them up, and you don't have to worry about the fatigue that you would get from a typical Harman set. So slightly different than what I thought it was going to be, but I can see where they were going, and I can see who are the users who would really like this style. So another recent set that actually is very much in this style is Truth Ear's Hola. So again, you can kind of see where Hola has a little bit more sub bass, and they probably should have given it a little more sub bass like that. The rest of this is sort of similar to Hola. And again, so right here, I would say that Hola's in the blue. Hola has two low spots. One is right here, kind of right in that female vocals, where you're expecting a little bit more energetic from Harman style sets, they actually dip this down. And I do think that Piccolo got that right. I think just a little bit more energy, but still keeping it low pinna. I think that was actually the right move for right there. Hola tries to make up for it over here, and they're not quite the same. It's your music is going to hit this in two different places, and this is sort of your energetic instruments versus carrying some of the vocals with a little more energy. And I think I would prefer the vocals to have a little more energy than to have some of the instruments have more energy, but they're both in the same offset, treble, lowered style, and they sound sort of similar. It just I would say that the difference is actually these two areas, and I do prefer how Piccolo did it, just giving you a touch more energy, and it's only like 2 dB, but it's 2 dB in a very important place. Plus, it rises a bit earlier, and you do get a little more energy earlier. And I think, again, to do a lowered treble, non-fatiguing, in this style, I think that was actually the right move, and I think they pretty much nailed that. So, lastly, if this sub bass bothered you so much, and you were kind of really concerned about it, micropore on the you could put a piece of micropore tape on the front vent, which is about right here, and that drops you exactly into where Hola is on the sub bass. So that gives you, I don't know what that is, that's probably a 4 dB bump in sub bass. So you're right there. I think you're still a hair, maybe 1 dB under Cadenza, but it really tilts the whole sound of this thing into a great, almost bass head style tilt, right? So you got a bassier sound to it, and then a very relaxed treble that still has presence but doesn't pop out of place. Not fatiguing. You could turn this one up to 11 or 12. Sounds great. The bass starts to slam a little harder. Again, this is very much a relaxed, higher volume. A lower volume is going to sound kind of odd. I mean, maybe some people do it at low volume. Maybe Hola worked at low volume. But yeah, this one, especially if you put the micropore on it, that's probably going to be too bassy, too warm. But turn it up so you can hear this slam a little harder. Super fun sound. Relaxed pinna, very easygoing. Enough energy for vocals, especially female vocals when you turn it up right there in the perfect spot. And then this little bit, like I said, your screaming guitars are much less screaming when it's dropped down like that. And then you still get some decent extension. But I would say that both sets kind of suffer from the same upper treble, lack of air, lack of height in the stage, imaging, all those things that need a little bit more treble presence. That is the trade-off here, is you end up with this higher volume, super relaxing, fun sound. But on the technical side, where you're looking for those treble details and treble resolution and things that are way out here, both sets are in the same ballpark there. There's nothing really all that different. But yeah, I do think that the driver is actually pretty good. It's an LCP driver, and it actually pulls this off pretty good. But again, a lot of it came down to tuning, and a lot of the technicals are going to be lost there. But yeah, that's kind of a quick look at what Piccolo is and what it is not. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.